Hey everyone, this is Belinda Carr. Welcome back to the Boost AC podcast, where we dive into the world of construction and explore the stories of people and companies who are shaping the future of our industry. I've got yet another exciting podcast for you today. I'm speaking with Bjorn Kierulf, CEO of EcoCocon. Thanks for joining us, Bjorn.
Yes, happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I have come across your product and when I was making a video on modular blocks and modular construction. But for those of you who haven't heard of EcoCocon, it is a mainstream way of building with straw using modular load-bearing panels. Is that a pretty good overview of your company?
Yes, that's right. We are concentrating on producing modular wall elements, but it's a fairly small size Lego, kind of a Lego type modules that can be connected together fairly easily, and they are load bearing and filled with straw as insulation.
When did you come up with this idea? Was it, I think I saw it was in the early 2000s?
Well, it's not my idea. It is an idea of some Lithuanians who started this in 2008, and I discovered it in 2010, and today I'm the CEO.
Got it. So how have you, what motivated you to this particular niche? Because it is very difficult to get the construction industry to adopt a new method of construction. Doesn't matter how eco-friendly it is and all the other advantages of these straw panels. It is a new way of building and it can be intimidating for builders and architects and engineers. So what motivated you to take something this ambitious on?
Well, with my wife, she's an architect. We try to build passive house with natural materials, and we did that before we discovered this EcoCocon modular system. And we thought that this modular system would help us create these buildings in an easier way, be able to build quicker, to do it maybe with a better
Less
idea
intimidating
of the
because
costs,
yes.
yes.
Yeah, because using straw is extremely labor intensive. There's a lot of man hours that go into building with straw. So you have created a way, or EcoCon invented a way to eliminate all of that and make it much easier to build with a sustainable product.
Yes, the idea is to industrialize, the process, and make it kind of available to the mainstream.
Yeah. So that was in 2010. So how has EcoCocon grown since 2010?
Oh, it's a huge difference from then. At that point, there were just a few homes per year. Today, we are producing about 12,000 square meters per year of outside area, like outside wall surface.
Is that mainly
So
in Europe?
that's mostly in Europe, but also in the US. We do have a few buildings built each year in the US as well. So we have about 400 buildings now that are standing all over the Europe and US.
Is that residential buildings or commercial?
It can be both because it's a universal module. You can use it for anything you like. We even have our own factory built with it. So that is, I think it's a nice showcase of how this
How
elements can
versatile it
be used
is.
in different ways. So, but most of it are family homes. Yes.
So where is your factory located?
At the
Do you have
moment,
several of them?
yes, you could say so. We have one that has been working since 2008 in Lithuania, and we have a second one now in Slovakia, which is just starting up.
So if for all the projects that you've completed in the States, the panels were still manufactured in Slovakia or Lithuania and then shipped over.
Exactly. They were shipped over. So, of course, that's not our aim. Our aim is to produce these panels locally and but we need a bit more higher demand before we can
Absolutely.
get
Yeah,
into that.
that makes sense. So where are the materials sourced from? The wood and the straw that's used in the panels?
Well, that is local. So, of course, we use material that doesn't come from very far, especially the straw is from the farmer next door, more or less. Wood, we are trying to source it sustainably from some close areas, not too far away, maybe in the neighboring country. So, yes, we are trying to keep the footprint as low as possible.
Possible, yeah. Let's dive into the details of the panels themselves because I'm sure people are curious about how these straw panels are built and how they work in a building, because there are lots of misconceptions. When you think of straw, you think, oh my god, is my building going to be flammable? Is if someone lights a match near the walls, is my whole structure going to go up in flames? But that's not true. These panels are actually pretty fire resistant.
Yes, absolutely. But let's start with the construction itself. You know, it's a stud, a timber stud construction, and it's in fact a double stud construction. So we have studs on the inside and the outside, not connected. So we have a thermal break there, so there is no heat loss. So they are also passive house certified for that reason. And of course, this construction is then filled with compressed straw, whereas like straw that is free and has a lot of air would burn very well. Compressed straw doesn't burn well. Straw has also a quite high content of silica, which is a natural fire retardant. So what happens in a fire is that the straw kind of gets carbonized on the surface, but the fire doesn't really go very deep into the construction. It's very
Similar to
similar.
mass timber.
Yes, it's very similar to mass timber, exactly, that the surface carbonates and then protects, in fact, the layers below. And the same thing happens for straw.
But the big advantage of mass timber is a huge thing, at least in the States right now. I know that Europe is much further advanced in terms of new construction materials than the States. But everyone's talking about mass timber over here. But your product has a lower carbon footprint than CLT panels.
Yes, of course, because you know mass timber, they it's not that it's fairly carbon. Well, it stores a lot of carbon, but it also is energy demanding because you have to also create the glues. You need to dry the wood. We are using our straw without any further processes. All we do is a little bit of dedusting, which is not very energy demanding.
And
So
even the
in
compaction of the straw, it's not really energy
yes,
intensive.
that's not a lot of energy, you know, no heat going into it or anything like that. So the advantage we have is that we have a fairly low carbon material which sequesters a lot of carbon during growth. And so the balance is in fact very positive for us, or negative, depending on how you
Yeah,
look at it.
that's true. Let's dive into some other advantages of these straw panels. How does it deal with water and, I guess, diffusion of water vapor through the walls?
Yes, it's very important that all constructions with timber are built in a way where they are diffusion open. So you need to have kind of any vapor pressure from inside has to be able to pass through. What we have done is we have introduced a air barrier, so we don't have any air leaks. That's how we fulfill the passive
Passive
house.
house, yeah.
But at the same time, it's diffusion open. It lets vapor go through. Um, so together we can achieve both of it, and we can achieve it by not having this membrane on the inside. We can do it on the outside, which makes it so much easier to achieve the passive house standard. Well, just talking about this would take probably the full program, so I don't want to go into all the details, but what it does is it helps us or enables us to apply, let's say, clay plaster directly onto the straw on the inside, which is another kind of a feature which I think will be more and more asked for by customers in the future. Clay plaster is a fabulous material, abundant, available everywhere in the world. You know, you have clay everywhere, more or less. You can dig it out. It's very easy to process. Again, very little energy that needs to go into it, and it controls the humidity of the indoor climate very nicely. So it creates nice surfaces, beautiful finishes, you know, in all different colors, and it regulates. It gives a nice, good indoor climate.
And I believe the walls behind you and the office that you're in,
Exactly.
that is hand rendered clay plaster
Yes,
walls.
these
Yeah.
are, of course, clay renders.
So
Yeah.
can people use a different material on the inside if using clay is just too intimidating for them? Like if they're used to using drywall, could they just
Yes.
attach that onto?
Yes, you can use drywall, you can use massive wood, boards, plywood, whatever you want to. Each of these materials have then a different fire resistance. The best fire resistance, in fact, was achieved with clay plaster. We reached 120 minutes.
Wow, over drywall.
Oh yes, that works much better than drywall. So yeah, so it's interesting to see how these natural materials, in fact, have very good characteristics and can provide good service
Yeah.
builders.
So your product is also a structurally sound material too, right? I mean, it's a load bearing material.
Exactly, because the straw is not the load-bearing part. It's the timber. So any structure can be then calculated by using normal calculation methods the engineers know well about, and in fact there isn't anything new that needs to be learned in that sense.
Got it. And it's also cradle to cradle certified. What was the process in getting that certification for your panels?
Yeah, cradle to cradle is fairly difficult to get. You need to kind of look into all the materials, their chemical compounds, and so you have to kind of dig quite deep into, you know, the logistics chain and find out, you know, what is the surface of the screw, you know, covered with, and what is the plywood glued with, and
My
all of
gosh.
these things. So it is demanding, but of course the cradle to cradle, it's quite logical that using wood, timber, plywood, maybe and straw is something that, you know, can be easily returned to nature. And also the cradle to cradle certification demands also to be socially correct and take care of the water. So there are other aspects that are taken into that certification as well.
So where the panels are manufactured, you have the factories themselves have to abide by certain rules and laws. I mean,
Yes,
that
yes,
they have
exactly.
set up. Got it.
Yes,
Okay.
more or less.
Um,
That's
yeah. So you said EcoCocon's completed around 400 projects so far, some in the States and then some in Europe. What has been some of the most memorable projects that your company has worked on?
well, we have worked on, of course, many kinds of family homes of all different shapes and sizes. But maybe we should maybe present a few larger buildings. One would be let's say, a gym in Holland. So that was built around a steel frame construction. So that's another advantage of our system, that we can adapt our panels to any dimensions that are on the building site. So there was another superstructure which was built around. Then we have apartment buildings in Switzerland, several story high, like 3 story high, I think, apartment buildings in Switzerland. We had
So
a
with that
very
apartment building, was there a primary structural frame or were the panels themselves, the structure, insulation, everything?
no, the load bearing part was the panels
The panels
themselves. Yes,
themselves. Okay.
yes. Of course, there are always some internal partition walls that will take some of the load. But in general, if it's well designed, we think that we can go up to 3, 4 stories at least, maybe 5 or 6 if it's designed in the proper way. Yes.
All right.
So we absolutely can take a bit of load, and we
Yeah.
have even tested it under quite a bit of load when we did the fire resistance test, for example.
So do you all have set dimensions for these panels? Like, or do you receive a model from the architect and then you have in-house engineers that figure out how to modularize the building with EcoCocon panels?
That's the strong kind of argument we have, that we adapt to your design and not the other way around. Because we know the architects.
Yeah.
The architects usually don't like to adapt to anything fixed, you know. So we really can adapt each module to 1 millimeters width, you know, really precisely. So to any kind of design the architect comes with.
Is that detrimental to your business? Because I would assume, since you're running a modular construction business, it would be far more efficient, cost effective, and if you could just have all these panels ready in your factory and it could just be shipped.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That would be nice, but probably wouldn't have sold one house by now, you know, because who would build with it? You know, I wouldn't be. I would be very surprised if architects would just say, "Okay, this is so good. We will just build with one size fits all." I don't think that will happen. So really, I think for us it's a good business case to be modular, and for that reason we are now building our second factory that will have like automated production line. Equipped with several robots who enable us to do this in a very efficient way and produce these panels really on measure and fairly efficient and quickly as well.
So the first factory, I think you said that was in Lithuania, that is entirely run by humans. That's just manual construction.
We still have some tools, of course, developed, able to kind of make it work, and we can still adapt to different sizes. So we produce in all kinds of sizes. Very often for a small home, let's say we need 130 panels, then we have about 100 different sizes, just to give you an idea.
Wow.
Yes, we really are very flexible in that sense, and this we now have kind of transformed into a production line that is more automated and will be able to kind of produce these more efficiently, I think. And that will enable us to maybe also put up some local production in countries where labor costs are fairly high.
Higher, yeah. So apart from architects being very stubborn and not wanting to modularize their buildings, what are some other hurdles that you have faced and maybe overcome while running your business?
Well, because it's so complex to produce like every panel in a different size, we have been concentrating a lot on digitalizing our models. So we have parametric models, which have a lot of data included, which we can then pull out and use for production. So in manufacturing or in creating offers, for example, which otherwise would be very complex to create. So we have kind of streamlined this process to really be able to do like millions of square meters, which is our goal, because there is really a lot being built. People have no idea how much external wall surface is needed. And in a time where global warming is really an issue, we will need more of this, and we'll need it fast. So this is really the task we are trying to get.
It seems like your business is just right at the threshold to where it can really explode, because everyone's becomes hyper aware especially with the 2030 goals and all that, hyper aware of carbon footprint and energy footprint of buildings, and the need to really build better, not just in terms of, like I said, the carbon footprint, but also in terms of just general building science, building walls that are vapor open, building healthy, like the importance of healthy indoor environment, and air quality and humidity levels and all that stuff. Everyone's talking about all this much more now
Exactly.
than they
But
were
that's
in
the problem.
2010.
Everyone is talking about it. They're not doing it.
They're not doing
So,
anything about it.
we need to, we need to take this next step and really do something about it. And it's possible now that we have a product that really can do what we are kind of looking for, then why don't the architects use that potential? I'm always surprised, they like it, they see it, they are, they we have enough projects that are good, show, like lighthouse projects that really show that it works well, and still there aren't enough architects really pushing this forward. I know we are talking about it every year, that it looks like there is a huge interest,
And
but
then it just,
and then it's still not kind of the amount that we could have produced. So we are still so we can deliver in fairly short time. You just ask us for it, and you will get your home, in a short delivery time. And
what sort of turnaround time do y'all have for just a standard home?
Usually after a project is finished, we say between 4 and 12 weeks, but usually in 6 weeks you can you can leverage. Yes.
So what do you think is the biggest hurdle to overcoming this, I guess, stigma, or people are just afraid of it?
No, I think it's conservative, very conservative construction industry. They like to do things they're used to. It's just about being, like if you have done something you know how to do, it's easy to do it again. When it's something new, you have to adapt. And not everyone is courageous enough to take that next step. And even if we do have very good experience with builders. In fact, most of the builders then love it because it's fun. They kind of go back in their childhood when they were building with these Lego blocks. Now they are building with something bigger. It's quick on the building side. It's precise. In fact, it's fun. And we are trying to promote it as a fun product. And even in Europe, I think we have had some companies who are using our panels to attract new young workers, so which are excited about this opportunity to kind of do something right and good and efficient on the building side. In fact, having fun doing it, and I would like to see more of that.
Yeah. Do you think cost could be one of the reasons that people are turned off, or is your product cost competitive with traditional construction?
Absolutely. It's definitely not the costs. Our product is more or less comparable to any other kind of construction. What might be more costly in the end is that when you build with natural materials, you would want to have maybe this clay plaster, which is more expensive than the gypsum board, or you want to use massive wood somewhere where you otherwise would have used some, like fake, and maybe better windows, maybe not plastic windows, or you would use a kind of nice timber windows.
It's those other things that go along with it.
Exactly, because you expect them from your house a little bit more, which is normal, I think. So it's a choice, I would say, you make. And so anyway, being sustainable means building a little bit smaller. That's the first kind of step you should think about. Don't build too big. Make it just to the size you really need, and then use the right materials, that will not only kind of use like natural materials, but also use them in a way where they have a long life. It's also important, and with a good design, so that nobody wants to tear that house down in 50 years, but they will see it still as a good working house. So investing into architects is important as well.
Yeah. So hopefully we can continue raising awareness of the benefits of this product, not just in Europe, but in the States too. And through this podcast, through the conferences, through social
Yes,
media, all that stuff, get people excited and say this is not really an intimidating product. You can easily swap out traditional means of construction for this. And
absolutely.
there are
Yes,
so many advantages that come with it. Yeah.
exactly. And if we talk about advantages, we talked about the insulation
Yeah.
value. So it insulates very well. You can reach passive house standard, but people also need to understand that in summer it can protect very well against heat, from the outside. So it works in both ways. It takes a long time for the heat to kind of get to the inside, because it's a fairly heavy insulation compared to, let's say, mineral wool, which will kind of have a very short phase shift period. So there are advantages in summer and winter, and there are advantages for this indoor climate, and with
Yeah.
altogether you just get a better home.
It just makes sense to use this. I'm not sure why. Well, we just discussed why. So hopefully we can overcome all those other barriers and make EcoCocon
Yeah.
far
Well,
more. Yeah.
absolutely. And the one thing I'm quite excited about is, we are talking about this to be a revolutionary product, because there is straw in it. But
We've been
what?
building with straw since the beginning of time.
Yeah, for me, straw is not like the revolutionary part of it. The revolutionary part is maybe that we are doing a modular system,
Yeah.
which we produce like not bricks. We don't produce full walls. We produce like modules that are, let's say, if you talk in imperial measurements, like 3 foot by 10 foot elements. That's the maximum we can produce, and you then can put them together into full wall segments, and in a very flexible way. And we produce these modules in an automated production line that uses very little labor and has potential to be very efficient. So this is this parametric, going from 3D model through parametric modules, and being able to produce this and deliver to the building site, or and to assemble it quickly. Now, I think that's a revolution in itself, in a way.
That's true. So let's talk about future plans for your business. You talked about your second factory being constructed right now with some automated lines and little more like robots used, or some maybe some less manual labor involved in this. How else do you plan on scaling up your business and increasing awareness of the
Well,
product?
we do have salespeople in nearly all European countries and in US and Canada, who are already kind of doing some buildings in every country. So we have a slow scaling up everywhere, so that we can show, in a few years, we can show to these buildings and tell the public that, look, this has been standing here for 5 years, 10 years. We have done this several times over. You can go and visit it. So that when we want to set up a local factory, it will be easier to accept it. So as we know, architects and builders, they are slow in kind of adapting to new things. And we can see that in every country, it has a kind of a curve where it gets more awareness over time. But our goal is really to have a production site more or less in every country, because we can't be producing, let's say, 50,000 square meters per year in one factory.
It's not going to make a big difference.
350 homes.
Yeah.
That's not really much. It's nothing even for small country like Slovakia, it's like nothing. It's a lot because it's more than one house per day, but or at least working day. So as you can see there, the amount we produce seems like a lot compared to what was done before with straw, but it's very little compared to what
What
the
you
potential is. And if
Yes.
you look at the US, like there is a huge potential here.
Absolutely, yeah. And I hope to continue raising awareness of your product.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much for explaining how the modules work and the advantages of it. I think you painted a really beautiful picture in people's minds of the exactly how great the system is. But I do want to ask you one last question, and I try to ask all my podcast guests this. What advice would you have for a young professional who wants to change our very stubborn industry the way you have? Like you've taken something head on and you said, I'm going to try to educate builders, clients, homeowners, architects on the advantages of this really great product. It has probably been a painful and difficult experience, but you have stuck with it. So, what advice would you have for someone who wants to do something like what you have achieved?
Well, I think now it should be much easier than maybe when we started out. As an architect, you just have to kind of tell your clients that this is a good option, and I think today you will find projects that you can show to the clients as well. So because seeing is worth more than talking,
That's true.
or hearing about things. So from that point of view, a young architect has all the potential kind of to influence the clients to make a bold choice, maybe, uh, which I would call the right choice. And then I think you will find fairly easily also builders, because it's not that much. All you need is some competence in building with timber. If you can put together a 2x4 wall, you can put together our wall. It's that simple. And you don't even have to pull out your measuring plan. You really just plug it together, and the dimensions will be just right,
Yeah.
as by the plan. And it's so I don't think there is a lot that needs to be done. It's just that also the clients need to feel that, the end clients, they need to feel trust and usually for that to happen, they need to have the architect and the builder that can take care of them. And so creating like small groups of architects and builders who would kind of promote it in their local community, who would then build with this material and then have open days to showcase, when the straw is still visible inside, and maybe also when some houses are completely finished, how this looks and how this is, I think, the way to go forward. And that is what we think is a way how we can really convince the public to go with this.
Like you said, seeing is believing. You
Yes,
can't just talk
exactly.
about it,
Exactly.
show it.
And experiencing is even better
Experiencing,
because
that's true.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, thank you, Bjorn, once again for coming on our podcast and sharing your story. It was really great learning more about EcoCocon. If people want to learn more about your panels, what would be the best way to reach out to you and your team?
Well, you just go on to the website ecococon.eu, and you will find your country there with contacts, so you can reach us through these channels easily.
All right. That's great. Thanks again, Bjorn. Appreciate it.
Saying thank you very much for being invited.